I think these people are very excited to see you.
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, well, we're super pleased that you took the time to do this. I want to start by talking about the new record. So I had an artist here not too long ago who told me that every album he's made is a reaction to the previous album that he made. So how is No Future a reaction to Vertigo?
That's a great question. I was actually talking about that on the phone with a journalist this morning. And it's funny because in my answer to what she had asked me, I kind of made the connection that they're really about the same thing, but it's like anything you have to deal with in your life. Like, so if it's like a weird situation or relationship or something that's hurting you, or like an insecurity or something, when you kind of grow through it and learn from it and kind of get out the other side, it's still there. And the way you process that emotion and that fear or whatever it is just different. So she had asked about like how the sonics are so much brighter, but the lyrical content is still so personal, and it's quite similar actually. And I guess it's just that, like grief, like sadness or whatever, it's still there and it's still what I think about. I'm just thinking about it in a different way. That's I guess the vast leap between the two.
You've talked about No Future as kind of a starting point, which is interesting, given that most people would talk about their debut as a starting point.
Yeah.
Why is No Future a starting point?
Well, I've been making music for a long time, and longer than putting things on the internet for like public to find it really. So by the time I got to Vertigo, I was kind of in a really weird space in my life where everything kind of that I loved and was used to was kind of gone, and I was never able to go back to that kind of lifestyle. So it's a really like, it's an album about flux and like confusion and anxiety and disorientation. So I feel like I've kind of grabbed all the bits I could and like, stopped the spinning, and I'm like kind of grounded now in a way that will let me just go and do shit. So that's what this album is. It's like, okay, let's go. Yeah. So I'm just ready to go.
Yeah. You seem to be on this record, one man's opinion just from listening. You seem to be looking around, looking outwardly a little bit more, perhaps, than Vertigo. Talk a little bit about kind of where your head was at in terms of writing these songs.
I guess I really thought that initially it would be quite circumspective like that, and I have a pretty pessimistic worldview. I mean, I'm a hopeful person. I believe in people. I think people are great and can do amazing things, but I'm overall pretty pessimistic. And I thought it would be like a dark album. I was like, okay, this is going to be pretty sad or whatever. And the music didn't come out like that, and I kind of went into that feeling. It felt really good. And so weirdly, I don't know, it's kind of like looking around and being like, this is a mess, and accepting that, and then you can feel not good about the fact that it's a mess, that it's probably going to be bad, but you can live with it and work with what you have.
For you, is that because Vertigo, in many respects, you were kind of reacting to what I believe was the craziness going on, in your life at the time. I mean, you were getting a lot of attention, record labels were calling, and managers were calling, and music publishers, and all this kind of stuff. If one were just to look at the title of the new record, No Future, one would think, this is pretty bleak.
Yeah. Well, when the title came to me and it felt like this is the new album, that's the impression I got. I was like, this is going to be bleak. This is going to be a grim,
Well, I got news for you. Those of us living in the United States with the current occupant of the White House might agree with you on that.
I mean, there's that, there's Brexit, there's any number of things you can point at, and but then really kind of, so having made the music and sat with it for, I mean, it's been done for maybe 6 months now,
Yeah.
so sat with it and digested it, it's like really like no future in terms of like relinquishing the hold of like ideals and like, or not ideals, but like how ideas can stifle you in terms of like, I think that at this age I should like have a family or like buy a house or, you know, be in my dream job or some shit. And by having those like kind of random like benchmarks, you're kind of, everything you do is kind of then limited by it and also kind of in its shadow. So like, if I tell you some news and you don't react the way I thought you would, like I'm then comparing your reaction to something that doesn't exist, and it can upset me.
Yeah.
And so if you forget about that shit, and I just tell you something, I have no expectations about it. Like it's only like you lose that negative feedback loop, and you can like be a person again.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. You said going into this record that you had an expansive feeling about it, and I'm wondering if that's expansive in terms of in terms of your mindset, in terms of the sounds that you heard, you know, perhaps in your head as you were writing these songs. What was expansive, or maybe even just the subject matter?
I think it was mostly the first two things. So the sonically, and then kind of the emotions that came with those sounds that I was making. So like Untitled was one of the first things I finished for the album, and so was Good Morning, which is kind of funny. It's the start and the end of the album was like the first things I knew. This is the start and this is the end. And Good Morning is just this massive, like, I feel like I can see the whole world when I listen to that. It's like, you know, it just feels big and vast and kind of endless to me. Just if you delete the vocals from a musical point of view, you know, I play those chords on like electric piano or like a little tiny piano or something, it still gives me that feeling. It's like that plus the sonics of the synthesizers and whatever, it just really felt positive and outward looking and big. And then I guess I was just like really surprised, and I was like, okay, I want more of this. This feels really nice. And so I just kept leaning into it.
I mean, one of the other things that I think you did on this record, because I mean, you're principally known for, you know, digital music construction, for lack of a better term, but you did use, you know, organic instruments on this record, physical instruments. How did that change things for you? First of all, why take that approach, and how did it change things for you?
I think I started making music completely in the box. So, firstly, I started making music just on a piano or guitar, whatever was lying around. But then when I started like recording music, it was all in the box. Everything was on the laptop or on the computer, except for my voice. And then I kind of got so deep into that, it felt really stagnant and not, it just, I don't know, I just wasn't really, I started like looking, oh, that synthesizer cool, or I'll get this guitar. And so like on this album, it's like this, like I bought an amp again, and I hadn't had a guitar amp for years, and like bought a bunch of synthesizers, and like I'm playing violin on it, which is not the first time, but the first like, I didn't play real violin in Vertigo, and there's strings all over that. Like I played the violin in this, and it's just a layer, but having these physical things that you can touch and make sound with, and make mistakes on, and then keep the mistakes in the recording because it feels right, is just something that I really love, I guess.
Yeah. And also, you know, there is that physical connection to music by playing physical instruments rather than doing it all in the box. And I imagine you would have to comment on this. I imagine there's some level of emotional response.
Totally. And it just leads you into spaces that you wouldn't find otherwise, because when I sit there, I'm like, oh, this needs like a violin to like go through. Like in So Far So Good, for example, if I didn't have, like, I went back home to Dublin, I grabbed my violin and brought it with me to where I live now in London. If I didn't do that, I would have written in some like probably string section, and it would have been fine. But because it was there, I was like, oh yeah, I'll figure out what I wanted to play. Just recorded a few times, and then I was like, wait, that's actually really cool, and just sliced up the like test recordings and put them all in wherever it felt like it fit, and it ended up being much more me than if that wasn't there and if that mistake wasn't there to be made. So it's just letting yourself like find these little happy accidents, I guess, that feel like that excite you.
And that seems to be, that whole idea of happy accidents seems to be something that keeps coming back for you, because the track Projector, I think you originally referred to it as a no man's land, quote unquote, of a track, but it started in one direction and ended up someplace else.
Right.
And I think that sense of starting down one road and thinking a song is going one way and ending someplace else, that seems to happen, or it seemed to happen a few times on this record.
Yeah, there's a couple songs that got scrapped and then reborn in a different way, or that weren't working, and then, chopping off like the entire like second half of the song or something and replacing it was the way to fix it and the way to make it feel like right and whole. I don't know. I think you just got to be open to that kind of process.
Do you look for those kinds of opportunities where, geez?
I don't think anyone looks to scrap something they've been making for months. But it's weird because when did I see that? Yeah, probably after most of the stuff was written and made, I went to this art exhibition in Barbican in London about Lee Krasner, who was an amazing, like impression? No, it wasn't impression. I forget. God, my brain's going blank. But at one point when she was working in New York, she went into her like art studio and looked at her paintings and was just like, this is all shit, and ripped them to shreds and left and didn't go back in the studio for like 2 months. And then when she did return, and she was like, okay, fuck, I have to go back and do some work. She was looking at these shreds in the floor and was like, oh, this is cool. And then that was like the genesis of like this complete new wave of art that she made. And I wish I'd seen those artworks and like read that before, because there's so many times where I feel like that. I'm like, no, I have to stick with it. And I think you just gotta be free to like, as much as people say like, be yourself, if there are no rules, you should do whatever you want. Like, it's so easy to not do that and just like do what you think you should be doing. So yeah, sometimes you gotta just be open to tearing it all to fuck.
And there's also this mindset that I should finish what I started.
Exactly. Yeah. Which I think is a big thing for me. I've always been someone who, like years ago, before I was just always like, oh, this thing's started, and I finish most of the things I start. It's very rare I'll leave something half finished or incomplete. So it's quite difficult to tear myself away from the idea of the finished product that I have, even though if it's not working, like I know it's not working, but I'm like, no, I have to fix it.
Yeah, gotta make it work. One of the other things you do, and this I find fascinating, is you incorporate found sounds into the tracks. There's a piece of a conversation you had with a mailman coming to the door, but there's also snippets of conversation, in your songs. It's why those things seem to work for you in the context of these songs. How do they help you kind of tell the story?
Well, it started from way back on, like in the box days, of finding things like a record, like static crackle thing will make certain sounds feel right, and for the song and for the sonic picture or world you're trying to create. And then it's a leap from there to go from, oh, I was recording the birds out my window, and that feels like I used to make music in my parents' attic. That's where my bedroom was, and there was a skylight, and the window would be open, and I'd be making the song and listening to birds sing. And then when I take the song and listen to it on headphones or something, I'm like, it's missing something. And I add the birds in, and it feels right. And I'm like, okay, that's cool, I'll just do that. But then it was like stuff like the blind, like rattling in the wind, which is like, it was all over Vertigo. It's still there on like a lot of No Future. I mean, when I was in New York making Vertigo, like I was, New York is just a city full of sirens. It's like endless police, endless
yes.
ambulances, fire
Yes.
engines. And that was the start of that song, Float. I was literally my phone out the window of my studio, recording I forget, it was a fire truck, I think, going down the road. And then the conversations is kind of the same thing, but to like tenfold, tenfoldly bigger. My brain, I'm sorry, I'm really tired.
You're doing fine.
But it's just weirdly like having that element of like the leaves rustling or like someone saying something that's kind of like, sometimes it doesn't even have to be that relevant to what the lyrical content is. It just has the same sentiment or emotion or the way they deliver it. Or maybe it's about where it's taken from as well. Can just elevate the music and express so much more than the music could by itself. And that's just something I've been like fucking about with and like putting in my songs and doing since forever. So like the fact that it's funny you touched on that, because the fact that like there's people like Natalie Portman or like Young Lean or whoever like talking on this album, and they like had to clear it, and like so I've listened to it. I thought it was bad, but like
that's the other thing.
That's amazing.
Yeah, you have to go get clearances for this stuff.
So that's why most of it is just like a recording from my phone, because I don't have to clear that. It's just the trees. You know?
unless the New York City Fire Department comes after you for their sound of the sirens or whatever. Which I can't imagine they would do. Do you keep like a little digital file of found sounds that you might go back to at some point?
I mean, I could scroll through all the ones on my phone if you want. It's just a mess of like random sounds or like weird vocal idea, like just a melody might come to my head. I'll just like try and hum it as best as I can.
Yeah.
Like if I'm like it's happened in like a museum or some shit, and I'm just there like trying to like hold the phone right in my hand. Like everyone's gonna think I'm a fucking weirdo.
There's a track on the record, Love, Death, Destruction. Love, Death, Distraction. Not Destruction. Sorry, not that. And it's gotten a fair amount of attention because of the commentary about the way people use social media. From your perspective, do you think we've developed like this sort of cultural sense of ADD that we can't focus on anything for longer than about 10 seconds because we're on to the next thing?
I think everyone's different, obviously. So if it's true for you, it's not necessarily true for me. But I do think in a big way we have, and in not necessarily in the sense of like your literal attention span of like, oh, I'm bored watching this video, I'll flick to the next one, or like I can't watch a movie without being on my phone for the first 20 minutes.
Right.
Like bigger than that, in like what you're trying to do with your life, people often like throw away very quickly because it's not happening fast enough, or they don't see like results, or they just like are like get distracted by something else that's exciting. So like they'll be like, oh, I'm gonna start, I don't know, like making beats on my computer, and they do it for a month, and then like, oh, you know what, I'll be a really, really good skateboarder. And I've seen this so much with my friends, and especially when we were teenagers, not so much anymore, because once you go to university, I feel like people, at least a little bit in a career sense,
start to focus,
are like, oh shit, I just need to do one thing, but it's it's weird. It's definitely changed like social interactions, not necessarily for the better. There's so many more like rituals and like weird shit that we do now that we didn't do 20 years ago, just because like after you've met someone the first time and like let's say you hang out with them again, you've already gone through their Instagram, like the last year or something. And like
Yeah,
That's insane.
Yeah, that is, that is where that
We're
used to
stalking everyone. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that used to be in God knows, in my generation, that used to be something you would find out along the way,
Exactly.
over the course of time.
Yeah.
And now you find it out.
Yeah.
Instantly.
And people are like constantly changing too, so like
Yeah.
you meet this person and you go and you like look at like whatever, you like add each other on Facebook, you go on Instagram or Snapchat or whatever, you look at their story, you look at like their saved stuff and you're like, oh yeah, that person actually sucks. they might have changed so much, but suddenly they're putting the bit.
Yeah. Well, and speaking of that, in the run up to Vertigo, you were actually really restrained about your approach to social media and your availability, if you will.
If I had my way, I would still be.
Really? Why?
Yeah.
Why?
Well, there's just, I don't need to share my life in any way, really, publicly. I don't want to. I don't have a Snapchat anymore. I barely use Instagram. Twitter can be fun sometimes, just like, I don't know. But I usually
the odd comment or two.
Yeah, I usually just use it to follow along with other people's funny shit. It's not really I don't think I use it particularly well. Like Facebook's just full of your mom's friends. There's not a whole lot of draw, and like I don't want everyone to know everything about me. I don't think they should either. That's probably unhealthy. I think I have to post a lot, especially like recently. I've had to post a lot because the album's coming out, and that's kind of the argument that's been said to me by my manager or they're like, you need to like do the things to give yourself every chance to be
a profile. You need a profile,
or just for every chance for the music to have legs and be successful. And,
yes,
reach people, which is cool. But then they're like, you need to post every day this week. I'm like, about what? I'm not fucking I'm not doing anything interesting.
Well, I mean, I understand that, and coming from a different, a different perspective, just me personally, I don't have that sense of hubris about myself that I believe that the rest of the world, whoever that might be, is all that interested in what the heck it is I'm doing.
I feel like most of the people I get along with, so like people I meet, like acquaintances or friends of friends that I instantly get along with, all have the same feeling of like, if I didn't need it for my job, if they're musicians or artists or whatever they do, or I don't know, or whatever industry they work in, like, because a lot of people have that LinkedIn for their jobs, I wouldn't have this at all.
Yeah.
And it's nice. I think part of me wants to say like, oh yeah, if I didn't have to use it to like tell you guys, okay, I'm going on tour or doing this, or the album's coming out, delete it. But there's definitely some positives there too, because like it's nice to have a place where you guys can like see all the music shit that I'm doing, and so it's got pros, but for me it's if I could post, I think last year I maybe post like twice or 3 times in the whole year.
Wow.
Oh no, the music started coming out, so I had to post more. But I remember one time my manager was literally like, you haven't posted in 6 months, you need to post some shit.
And I'm spacing on the name. You have to help me. The song with the video with the plane that can't fly.
That's Love, Death, Destruction.
Yes, thank you. That video is so arresting to me. There's a sense of longing, of yearning. There's just all this stuff going on, and I know you made it with your friends.
Right.
Talk a little bit about your interest in the visual concept, in the visual conception of your songs.
Yeah. So I've always been a big like cinephile. I really love movies. But meeting those two, so the two directors, Lyndon and Hannah, or Zhang and Knight,
Zhang and Knight, right?
Their director name, was really eye-opening. I've kind of never worked with, maybe with the exception of the guy who, we don't have any production here, but the guy who designs all the live shows. I've never met someone, or people who have like that amount of creative dedication to detail in my life. They're unbelievable artists, and it's an absolute joy and honor and like privilege to work with them. The fact that they can like make a 4-5 minute long video about a plane and make you feel sad for a plane is incredible.
It really is remarkable.
But yeah, so that was like originally, because we had so many days that they would come down, especially before the album was even finished. It was like all of last year they would come down at various points to my house and we'd just sit in the floor of my living room and I would play the songs and just like be like, oh, okay, well I think this song's about this and this is what I think and blah 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 blah, and we'd just conversate about it. So then they'd be like, okay, we'll go, we'll make some ideas, we'll send them to you, we'll see what you think, and we kind of finessed it over the course of, I guess, last year. And it started off with being like, it was supposed to be a rocket ship because of just, I used to want to, when I was a kid, I wanted to be an astronaut. And they thought it was like really beautiful to consider this rocket ship that was never going to fly. Or it was like a statue of a rocket ship, something that like looks like it should fly and it was never going to fly, and it's on its final like journey across whatever space to be scrapped or put in the bin or whatever. And just how they can personify that thing and like make it relevant to so many themes in the song and in I guess all of our lives as creators who put things into this was just crazy.
Yeah. Who was the truck driver? The guy driving the truck.
The guy driving the truck was actually a famous Kazakhstan actor, and he got stopped multiple times to get into like have photos taken of like someone's baby and like all this crazy shit.
Well, I should have asked first. Where was it shot?
In Kazakhstan.
In Kazakhstan.
Yeah,
okay. All right. Well, that makes sense. It's just beautiful.
He was incredible. Very weird. But yeah, no, he did a great job. He'd never driven a truck in his life before. It was a whole thing.
Yeah. Like Vertigo, you produced this record.
Yeah.
And I'm sure after Vertigo, you most likely could have gone and worked with any producer that you might have chosen to work with. But you chose to continue to produce yourself. Why? Why continue to do it on your own?
Kind of just because it's the way I'd always done it. I guess producing music on a computer became the alternative to bands because I would have more control and I could do the ideas that I thought of very quickly and in ways that, like, if I was working with other people, would meet resistance or like, oh no, I think that's shit. And I'm like, okay, well, I get to go and make the shit ideas by myself. And so when it came to post Vertigo to making things, I literally started making things. I was like, Vertigo's doing great, I don't have to make music for ages. And just somehow fell into making songs when I was on the Vertigo World Tour. So it was like instantly like making things. And it just kind of snowballed from there. Like we had a list of people like, I think it's time to like work on music with other people and collaborate. And we had a list of people, we were chasing them down, a bunch of no's, a bunch of yeses, and everyone was like, oh, I'm on tour, we're like, cool, I'm on tour when you're on tour, and then I'm on tour when you're not on tour, and then it swaps, and we were like trying to make it work, and then suddenly I had so much work and music done, I was like, I can't, like I just need to finish this by myself, this is like my thing, I can't like just have someone come in like halfway through. So yeah, it was just kind of a force of habit, I guess. And it's not to say I don't ever want to work on stuff with people. There are people who I would die to work with, absolutely. But I'm also just happy doing shit by myself. I've got ideas, and I've got things that I want to do, and I'm really excited to do. So if people are available and can do it, sweet. And if they can't, then I'll figure it out.
One of the things that producers often do is provide feedback. They kind of hold the mirror up and say, is this how you want to do it? Maybe there are options. Who do you get, if you're not working with a producer, who do you get feedback from?
I have some close friends who we've been sending music to each other for years. So them, but I mean, since like the last like 4 years, it's kind of just been purely on a technical basis. So like, oh, this is like harsh, or this is too loud or too quiet, or whatever. It's like a mix, kind of like notes, kind of, and like I don't really. I don't really have anyone who's like, that's a shit idea. And I've definitely had shit ideas. So that's why I think that collaboration would be very good.
Yeah.
Because I would like someone to tell me when they think it's really bad. I don't think people do.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, I guess because I don't work with people and it's not like a diluted like idea, because it's just purely me, I kind of get to go and be as niche as I want. To the point where when I first played like I think the first 6 or 7 songs from Vertigo I finished for my A&R and label people in New York, I played whatever the 30 minutes of music was, and the first thing he said was, "Where's the choruses?" And they just left me in New York to like do whatever I wanted, and I was like, "What the fuck you mean?" I'm not here to make choruses.
I'm doing what I do.
Yeah, and I think that's great. They let me do that, and they're like, "Okay,
Sure.
cool." I went and I finished it. I didn't change shit for them, and I think that's the great thing about being able to do it by myself. But yeah, there's definitely times where I kind of wish I had some strong, confident feedback.
I mean, that's one of. I mean, many artists would actually pine for not having label interference.
Totally. Yeah, I think. As much as I think like, oh, if I was like a duo instead of one person, or like in a band or some shit, it would be easier because you'd have people to lean on, and you're all going through the same shit. I got to be where I am now because I was by myself and had to figure it out and make mistakes and put out songs that I wish I didn't put out and that kind of thing. And I didn't put out that many I wish I didn't put out.
Yeah.
That's just, I don't know what I'd say.
They're all good.
I'm here, and that's cool, and I'm just gonna keep making, I guess, bad ideas.
When you're working on songs, do you prefer to work quickly, or will you labor over something until it's kind of where you want it?
Both. I think the best ideas I've had. I mean, because every rule is immediately broken by the next song I think about. Because I was gonna say all the fastest ideas are my favorite. And then I think of I wrote 5 different choruses for end credits before I got to the one that's like the final song. And that is not fun. So yeah, I feel like the fastest ideas are the funnest, but you can labor over shit for like a year and it can still be amazing. It can be just as good as something you made in 2 days. So whatever way it works, but hopefully the more pain-free option.
Yeah, because one of the things, especially working on your own, and I would imagine within the box in particular, given the advances in technology, there are endless options available to songwriters to tweak, to edit, to enhance, to change. When or how do you know when something's done?
Well, there's 2 interesting things you touched on there, and one is that's kind of the reason I started using real guitar and a real amp and like real synthesizers again, because I record the sound and then it's recorded. Like I used to use like a software synthesizers or software amp, and I would just tweak the settings forever, and that cuts that out of it. But also, there's a funny thing of when you make a song and it feels unfinished. Literally, I've made start end. I think I accidentally leaked it on SoundCloud. I'm sure some of you remember.
Oh my god.
And then I think I finished it like a month or 2 later, but it didn't feel finished. I was like, I don't know what this needs, so I'm just gonna move on to other shit and I'll come back to it later. And about 6 months later, I'll come back to it and I'm like, oh, this is finished now. And I hadn't touched it for 6 months. It was just a mental thing. So it's finished when it tells you it's finished,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, because I imagine that's got to be the hardest thing to do. Because I'm sure in your mind, there's always something else you can do to make it better.
Yeah, it's, I don't know. I think it's over the years I've gotten used to like dealing with flaws and kind of loving them. Yeah, there's only so much you can finesse something before you lose your mind, and you'll get in one car and be like, this is great, and then the next car is like, oh, there's so many problems here, and then you're back in the studio and you can't hear the problems you heard in the car, and it's like, okay, fuck it, it's like whatever.
You know, one thing, obviously it's one thing entirely to be writing songs, recording them, making them, however you hear them in your head. It's another thing entirely when you finally take them on stage and play them for audiences. And I'm wondering how, maybe speaking of the songs on Vertigo, I'm not sure how much you've had to opportunity you've had to take the songs on No Future out yet. But do they change? Do songs change once you get them on stage?
I think the way that I've always done my live shows, they don't, because it's very, I want the shows to sound like the album, or to sound like the CD or the record or whatever, so we work really, really hard. Like the team that I work with is completely dedicated to making that happen, so we kind of don't really leave ourselves room, aside from like where I like, oh, it would be sick to like do this live and there's like a transition or like a part of a song to change just for live. Once it's like set, it's set and it doesn't really evolve past that. And I think that's something like playing it in a more organic way is something that we're moving towards. And I think maybe hopefully in the future I can like really kind of explore that as well. But for the minute I'm quite happy just to like, because I mean I like the music and I want the sound the way it sounds, you know?
The album ends with the song Untitled. And you seem to be saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, that life's gonna go on kind of no matter what.
Yeah.
What happens.
Yeah.
Talk about that. Talk about it, because that sounds to me like a pretty significant kind of worldview. Kind of how you perceive the world around you. Talk a little bit about that.
I'm really happy you picked up on that actually, because that was actually a big thing. There was songs that made like Rushing or Streams or 2020 that were like these big like end finale kind of feeling songs, and I always knew Untitled, even before those songs were like begun. Like I always knew Untitled was the last song, and it was just really important to me that there was a sense when you finish listening to it that it's over and it keeps going at the same time, and that there is this like it goes on this to everything, and so that song by itself, like lyrically, and like the way that the music is composed, I guess, just is that sentiment completely captured for me. And then like the children singing at the end, like that song that they're singing is a song that I grew up listening to on like a calypso CD, but it was just really just Caribbean music. It wasn't really calypso. I listened to it on loop, and I could still know all the words to the song, and it's this weird like that's a part of my life that will never come back. I'm not between the age of 5 and 10. I forget whatever age I was when that CD first came to be in my car, and I would force the rest of my family to listen to it. But it goes on. It's here, and I'm 24, and it's like a big part of. It's one of my favorite moments on the album, and no matter what it is, if it's like a relationship with someone or like a summer that you love, like it's gonna end and then it's gonna come back, and it's gonna end and it's gonna come back, and it's just gonna keep rolling. And then I guess something I really had to only deal with personally recently is like, and then you're gonna die, and you're gonna keep going in a weird way. Like the things you do when you're alive are imprinted on the world and the people around you, and that keeps going, and that's passed on through them to other people, and you know, I guess eventually it might dissipate into nothing, and you're just atoms in the dirt or in the sky or wherever, but you're going. You're doing weird shit as an atom, you know? And this is getting really, really threatening.
Yeah. All I can say to that, given my age, is God, I hope so.
Yeah. But I that was just important. It's like,
yeah.
And I think that's where the optimism really lies, or it really stems from, is that as fucked up as something might be right now, or maybe it's not fucked up and it's great, it's gonna end, and things will keep moving, the world will keep turning, you know. You lose your job, you lose your significant other, you lose a friend, you lose whatever, and you will wake up the next day, and it will be a day, and you'll wake up the day after that, and it will be a day, and that is the one redeeming thing through all the weird shit is that, like, you can do whatever you want with that shit, you know. It's gonna keep going, and if you think about it the right way, it'll all be good.
Yeah. So, fair warning, we're going to ask for a couple questions from the house in just a minute. First, I think you only started performing in like 2016.
That's correct.
It's not very long ago. How have you evolved as a performing artist?
Oh, a lot, in a big way. I was definitely not happy performing when I was first performing, and I was I used to be so stressed out I couldn't eat and sleep, like the whole day before a show, the whole day before the day of the show, and then the day of the show I definitely couldn't eat, couldn't sleep, like my stomach would be in knots, and this is weird because I've performed my whole life just with like bands or like in my school musicals or whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
And never found it difficult, and like no nerves, and then suddenly this was my thing, and I was like putting so much pressure on myself. I couldn't like enjoy any of the like fun times we had around that, and like not to say it was never fun or it wasn't great to like meet fans on like that first tour, the second tour, or the third tour, or to share those moments, but I think I was doing it because of an idea. I was being an idea of what it should be, or what I should be, or how I should perform.
Yeah.
And I think really on the Vertigo tour, the production, so the lighting concept we had was like this kind of forest of trees, and it was like this world like I could walk between, and like different instruments would be in different spaces, so you'd have to physically travel to go and play this synthesizer or play this drum machine or something. And it was so dark on stage, I would just walk around and like look at the floor and sing. And I was like, oh my god, I'm so relieved. And weirdly, this is like the first tour that I'm really excited to go on. One, just because performing in these like tiny shows without any lights or anything has been so nice. And like just to play the music, sing the songs, and if like 5 people are there, or if it's 500 or whatever, 200 in here or something, yeah. It doesn't matter. I'm like I'm playing the shit because I like playing the shit. And that's good. I did not feel like that for years. So, and then there's the whole like production shit. This show, not this one, the real tour has just turned into a massive art project.
Yeah.
And it's...
Who are you working with on that? Like who do you work with to help you achieve sort of the visual?
Yeah, so that's really that guy, Gabe. So Gabe Forboni has been the production designer for every show I've ever done. So from when we did free shows in London for 200 people, we brought in lights that cost a shit ton of money, and we lost tons and tons of money on the tour, but because I wanted to do the idea that was in my head, and he has always been there to kind of make that idea better than I ever thought it could be.
Yeah.
So this is an idea, the live show that we're going to do this year is an idea I wanted to do for Vertigo and we couldn't afford. And in kind of a serendipitous way, it works so much better now. And it's kind of evolved in ways, and he basically is one of the foremost people in the world at what he does. He designs entire music festivals. He does production for massive people who do stadiums and much bigger shows than I could ever do. And it was just a thing of luck that he's really good friends with my manager, and that's just how we started working together. So he helps put all of that together and really make it a real thing that you can touch or you can see, and it's a blast. I mean, he's doing like an art installation at LACMA. He's like his own artist in his own right, without a doubt. So
that means you got to go see the tour. You're going to Europe first, but you're coming back to the US, right?
Yeah, I think the LA show's on June. It's far away.
Yeah.
But
So there you go. So we have time for like 1 or 2 questions from now. Oh, it's a fine-looking group of people. Way in the back, yes, sir, waving at us. You only get one. Let's not get greedy here. Go ahead. You gotta speak up. Can't hear you.
Throughout your music,
I can hear you. It's okay.
you don't feature a lot of artists.
Yeah.
So I met Jeremy Zucker back in 2018, and it was a meet and greet, and I told him how you were featuring his song.
Yeah.
So he talked about it. I think I asked him, how did you guys get in touch? He said he reached out to you on that at first. He said you didn't want to because I believe he was busy.
Yeah, so he's asking, I don't know if people over there could hear, but he's asking about, I did a verse on a Jeremy Zucker song a year or 2 ago, maybe? I can't remember. I don't know when it came out, but initially Jeremy hit me up on Twitter or something, and I said no. I was busy, I can't remember if I was doing my own album or I was on tour or something, and then the song he sent was actually just stuck in my head for a few days, or for a couple of weeks, I think. And there was this idea that I really wanted to write, and it fit so well over this song that he had. And then a few weeks later, I'm like, okay, wait, can I still do this? 'Cause, I think this would actually work really well. I've had an idea for a while that I want to do, and I think this is the perfect place for it. And he had actually already filled in the verse that he wanted me to do.
Oh.
And I'm like, that's perfect, because it wouldn't really make sense as a verse anyway. And yeah, so that's how that came about.
Right here.
So you're bringing on your Europe tour. You're bringing, I think, your friend Atu on the tour. And how is it like working with him, producing his music? And what has been kind of like your favorite song that you produced for him?
Ooh, so it's really fun working with him. He's just one of my best friends. So it's every time we hang out, like it doesn't feel like it's work at all. It's just just having fun and like kind of fucking about, I guess. But like the best thing about that is he lets me do weird shit. Like I'll turn on a synthesizer and I'll make some weird beat, loop, whatever. And I'm like, oh man, I'll just turn it on and it's on some like random setting that doesn't make any sense. I'm like, man, I'm gonna make this into a beat, it's gonna be great. And he's like, all right, whatever. And I'll do it, and he'll let me do that, and he'll make it into a song. Then I'll be like, here, write to this, and he'll start writing a song over it. And then what he does will make me change like the weird beat I did, and then it kind of goes back and forth like that until we end up with that EP3 we did is by far one of my favorite things I've ever made. It's like super experimental in certain ways, but also just the things he wrote over, like bang. Like Know the Messages is one of my favorite songs that I've done for sure.
So we got time for one more. Yes, sir. Right there. Yep.
This is fun. I work at TikTok. And you
Hello.
No. Oh my god.
Did you expect it to become that big?
Yeah, so I think I became aware of that when I had like 50,000 videos or something, and we were kind of following it like, oh my god, that's kind of funny. I would never use TikTok or make a TikTok,
I swear.
despite the requests of my label, who I still don't know, I can't see where they're sitting, but
You're here.
it's somewhere, but it just kept going. I think it's like over 1 million, like different like videos with sex in it, and then you see like these compilations that have millions of views, and like all the jokes are shit. It's like the same joke over and over again, and I mean like I'm just like 10 years older than all the people who are doing this, so like, I guess it's just not for me. But I think the great thing about that is that song is 4 years old.
Yeah.
And it's now becoming like this like kind of
it's just now
viral
sort of
TikTok
coming up.
thing.
Yeah.
Well, no, it did well 4 years ago as well for how big I was. It was really good, you know. But yeah, they kind of just took something that they like and ran with it, and I'm like, I'm not gonna go do that. It's not for me, but like, do your shit, man. That's cool.
So last question, and I can't let you get away without talking about, because I know this means a lot to you, climate change and sustainability.
Right.
You know, especially on this tour that you're going on. Talk a little bit about what this means to you and what you're doing.
Yeah, I guess what we're doing is trying to make up for all the times that we didn't do anything. So everything from the card that like the vinyl sleeve is made from recycled card. The vinyl is delivered in recycled cardboard. What else are we doing? Like all the merch has like a mandatory like plus $1 thing, and I'm matching every single dollar as well. We're doing certain collabs with like water bottle manufacturers that we're going to sell on tour. All the merch is organic cotton, to like produce and made, and we buy the blank T-shirts off of companies who are sustainable companies. Someone was like, "Oh, why are you still using Gildan?" I'm like, "Have you seen the stuff we're making? It's not Gildan. It doesn't say Gildan anywhere on it. It's like we're like trying really hard, and the projection is that by the end of the tour, with all the things we're doing on tour and the donations via the merch that we're matching, is that we will be able to make this tour carbon neutral. And that includes all of you guys getting to and from the show. And that includes us and all the gear and all the electricity we use to run the show or to be alive during the tour or whatever. And we should have enough money like in this donation pot to do that for this tour and the last tour and every tour we've ever done, which is pretty crazy. But I think the biggest thing for me is just I'm trying to, after about a month of the album being out, I'm going to try and do like a report of just how much we've cut back on our like waste and environmental impact by just making choices. Like we don't get to change how they make the vinyl in the vinyl plant. I don't get to change the truck it's driven to your house on. I picked some things, and if we could be like, look, these are the choices we made. We reduced our like carbon footprint by 30%. Like that's powerful, because like I don't hold the keys to the factory, you know. I can't change the fact that I have to fly here to be here. I can't walk, I can't swim. I've never sailed a boat before, I can't do that. Kind of scared of it too. I think there's a lot of people who would look at something like that and be like, oh, so all I have to do is work with this t-shirt person instead of that t-shirt person, great. And hopefully it can just be some sort of a domino effect, or at least I'm doing something.
Yeah.
And yeah, we're just trying, you know.
Well, we're congratulations on that, and congratulations on this album.
Thank you. Man.
We're so pleased that you took the time. I know that you're tired. You've been doing all kinds of promo and getting ready for the tour. We're very appreciative that you took the time to come down and have a chat. More importantly, we want to hear a little bit of music. So, ladies and gentlemen, Eden.